It's our responsibility to make this world a better place. This team does an incredible job of taking that on our shoulders, understanding the position that we have and the platform that we have.
The USA have won the Women's World Cup for a fourth time. They secured back-to-back titles after overpowering the Netherlands.
The USA have been champions in every sense, with Megan Rapinoe winning the Golden Boot and the Golden Ball Award for the tournament's best player.
If we really want to have meaningful change, what I think is most inspiring would be if everybody other than Raheem Sterling and Koulibaly, if they were as outraged about racism as they were.
It's a few months on from the craziness of the World Cup. What's life been like for you post-France? Have you even been home yet? What's life like for you now? Can you go to the supermarket and buy milk? What's it like?
Yeah, milk and 4 selfies. that's sort of the accompaniment. No, I can go places, but it's like so much more. I mean, like, there's not really a place that I'm going that, for the most part, like, people don't recognize me. Even if they don't come up and say anything, like, you get like the sort of like glances around. I'm also a really like very observant person just in general. So I feel like I sort of like feel everything around all the time, and I'm like, it's kind of interesting. It's been totally insane, like in the best way, in the most exhausting way, hard in ways, just because of traveling around. I've been home a little bit, mostly to like unpack, do laundry, and repack, and then leave again. It's kind of amazing to have the career that I have, where we started at this particular point, and like it just seems like every year it's like getting blown out of the water, and the sport is growing so much. So I have this very like real perspective of where things have come from, like a visceral perspective of it. And so knowing what we did this summer and feeling that and still like figuring it out, you can't help but just, you know, have it feel surreal and sort of be like awestruck by everything that's happening. And of course, like personally, I basically went through like 10 years of my career in like in a particular way, you know, like growing every year and, you know, whatever. But this just like, I got put on a rocket ship. So I'm like enjoying the ride, but I'm like, wow, this is insane. Like, this is crazy, but in a good way.
Winning back-to-back World Cups is an incredible achievement for the team, but on a personal note, you also won the Golden Ball, the Golden Boot. I mean, your luggage going home must have weighed an absolute ton.
Yeah.
Was there a point, I don't know, maybe at the final or at the parade afterwards when they shut down New York for you, where the enormity of what you'd achieved really hit home?
Yeah, I think coming back to New York and, you know, being in like, you know, certainly the preeminent city in our country, but one of the preeminent cities in the world, and like starting to understand how other people were feeling about it. Like, people were not like, wow, you guys did so amazing at the World Cup. It wasn't like, great job for the soccer, you know? And, you know, having the reference of 2015, going through that parade, it felt like 2015 we were being celebrated for winning the World Cup. And this parade in particular was like we are all celebrating. Like, yes, we like sort of were the vehicle for it, but it felt like everybody won the World Cup. Like, everybody had, you know, sort of this like piece of it, and they were invested, but they also helped. And it was like, it just was something that transcended so far beyond what the sport was. And like, we're sort of at the epicenter of that, getting to like celebrate like with everyone along the parade route and like at City Hall and whatever it may be. And just, you know, that sort of sentiment has carried on into the rest of, you know, everybody's lives and whatever. Like, it felt like we all won.
Your goal celebration in France was one of the iconic images with the arms outspread. Talk to me about the inspiration behind that. Has it got a name, or is it just the Rapinoe?
A lot of people call it the pose.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with pose. I did it for the first time actually against Australia in a friendly on obviously they were sort of one of the more talked about teams heading into the World Cup. They have, you know, what I consider probably the best player in the world on their team in Sam Kerr, like ridiculous. So they had, you know, kind of a lot of hype around them. So it was a friendly, but it's like, it was a little bit more than that. It was kind of a time to like stamp our dominance a little bit and like gain that sort of confidence heading into the World Cup. So I scored like the go-ahead goal in the game or something. So it was, in the beginning, it was kind of like, almost like a touch of arrogance, I think, of like, you know, like, I know you're entertained in this moment, and like I'm entertaining you, sort of like, are you not entertained? Kind of gladiator feel a little bit without like, you know, the death and stuff of the gladiators. But certainly in the World Cup, it was much more of like a defiance, but like a joy as well, and like, you're not going to take any of our joy, and like, this is what you get, this is what you ask for, this is what you really want. You know, you're going to be like, oh, it's arrogant, or, you know, the team got busted for celebrating too much, or like, you know, everyone's like, ah, she talks too much, whatever. But it's like, this is what you really want, and like, I'm going to give it to you, and I'm giving it to you, and this team is giving it to you, and like, you kind of like it. So it's sort of like a defiance, but also playful, but also like, if I could have like thrown a sneaky middle finger in there, I might have, but then like, it was sort of like a way to connect with the fans too, in some sort of sense. Like, I feel like then they can do it, and it kind of means the same thing. It's not like if someone did like the Ronaldo, you know, there's really nothing behind it other than him. So like, this feels like there's a little bit more behind it that's kind of for everyone. Obviously it came on the, you know, right after like the President Trump's tweets at me, and like the semifinal. It's a huge game. Like, this is the biggest game, you know, outside of finals. Like, this is the biggest game that we've ever played. Most important game. Like, the fans were insane, and France in the home, you know, in their home country, being the host nation in Parc des Princes, was kind of a nice moment.
You touched on the word arrogance there. Alex Morgan's cup of tea celebration. I mean, I don't think a cuppa has ever caused so much controversy in the history of the world. We take our tea making very seriously in England, and obviously off the back of the Thailand win, you're accused of celebrating too much.
Yeah.
What's the difference between confidence and arrogance?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're going to have fun. Like, we work so hard, as every team does. We take a tremendous amount on off the field, very serious. Like, we're, you know, we obviously fought a lawsuit before. We're, you know, fighting for equal rights, all kinds of things. Like, we have a sort of very serious role to play. So it's kind of like the balance of that, of like, when we get to be on the field, first of all, the whole point of the game is to score the goal to win the game, right? So we've always done this. We've like done cartwheels, and like when we play in the snow, we did snow angels, and, you know, danced, and we've sang in microphones. It's like everything. We want to have fun, and we're gonna enjoy it. And just next level trolling of the tea is like so funny. It's so funny, especially, bless the English, but y'all are uptight sometimes. And like, it was just so perfect, you know? So I don't know. I think that as long as we continue to do things the right way for the right reasons, I said this after the Thailand game, if anybody wants to come at us for not playing the game the right way, for not being good ambassadors of the sport, for not doing the right thing, I'm happy to have that conversation, and happy to listen to them try to break that one down. But I really do feel like we want to enjoy the game. Like, this is entertainment. Like, sport is for the love of it, of course, but it's also like, this is entertainment. And in order to become like the biggest, baddest sport on the planet, and the biggest, baddest team, and biggest, baddest players, like, let's have fun with it. Why not?
What we've seen from 1980 till today is that it is an economic miracle.
我们做了一系列的个性化的、客户化的开发，或者叫创新，真正满足农村的这个市场需求。
Wow is sent their people there, and no matter what would happen, they would stay until the problem was solved.
因为从2000年开始，我们国家在无线电的这个选择上都是处在一种矛盾之中。我们没有获得国家选择，个人精神是很痛苦的，不知如日度年。我不怕来自外面的压力，外面怎么能压我，我不怕，我还坚定这么走下去。
There is this almost North American style entrepreneurialism in the man. There is a spectacular determination. You almost feel like the company thinks it's going to fail every day. And so they have a hunger to innovate.
When that whole, I don't know what you want to call it, a spat maybe, blew up,
Yeah.
in the middle of the World Cup, I mean, you're at one of the biggest tournaments of your life. What was that like for you?
Honestly, it was like, it felt much less serious than it actually was. Like, I logically understand the like gravity of having, you know, a president like quarrel with you. But it's like, presidents do not quarrel with people over Twitter. Presidents don't, you know, go after members of their own team and put undue pressure on them before the biggest game of the tournament and, you know, one of the biggest games of their lives. Presidents don't, you know, bash every single powerful woman that he could possibly bash and come across. So it's like he's not presidential to me, so it carries so much less weight. Like, I sort of knew it was a big deal, but I didn't have that like, oh, feeling like, whoa. And then the team just, like, it was pretty chill. I had like amazing support within the group, obviously within the team, but all of our media and comm staff, you know, our president was there. He was supportive of me, like, you know, all of the executives over there, all the coaches, everybody. It was like everybody kind of had my back, and it didn't become like a thing within the group. I was also already scheduled to do the press conference, so me and the media team just decided, like, I'm just going to address it head on, say exactly what I want to say. So then, you know, the media would have asked 1,000 questions about it if they could, but I was like, this is exactly what I have to say and exactly how I feel about it. So, hold my beer.
You have stood up for women's rights, LGBT rights. You've made a point of racial inequality. You've said that you feel like you found your voice going into your 30s. But what was the trigger for you to think, I'm going to use my platform for something more than soccer, more than football?
I mean, I think, honestly, very early on in this team, like, you realize that it's not just a national team. It's not just like a team that gets together. We've always fought for so much more. Like, that's in the thread of the team. So, you know, very early on, we're like going through, you know, bargaining negotiations for our contracts. We're, you know, understanding that we, you know, essentially are this really unique traveling team that represents America all over the country. We're like sort of charged with inspiring and motivating, you know, young girls and boys and people like everywhere. So it's like from pretty much the first, you know, the first little bit that you're on the team, you realize that it's much bigger. Ahead of the Olympics, I decided to come out. It just started to feel weird that I wasn't out. Like, I'm like, I don't not want to be out, but I'm not. So did that. So much, you know, positive impact from that, positive feedback, and, you know, helping to sort of move that conversation forward. In that, you know, asking people to be my ally and to support me in the things doesn't mean that you are gay or that you have to fully understand it in the way that I do, but I need you to be my ally. I need everyone. So then fast forward 2016, you know, Colin Kaepernick is kneeling. I'm, you know, watching and hearing everything that's happening. Immediately I'm like, oh, I can help. Like, I got your back. Like, I don't know exactly what it's like to be you, but I believe you in what you're saying, and I understand that in order for it to change, like, it's going to have to be more than just the oppressed person taking on the responsibility. It has to be other people. It has to be people that look like me and are in a position like me and have the privilege that I do. So that was kind of an easy decision for me. Going through all of the backlash and the craziness and hatred from that only like solidified my understanding of myself and the power in my voice, and like I just think that everyone has a responsibility to do whatever it is they can in the most impactful way that they can to make the world a better place. So I'm like, you know, semi-famous person on a very famous team, on a very successful team that has media access basically every single day. We're, you know, growing the platform all the time. It's just like, this is the most impactful lane that I can run in. And I think it just sort of like, to me, everything is connected, whether it's fight for equal pay, you know, equal access to sport, racial inequalities, police brutality, LGBTQ rights. It's all the same exact thing. It's like, it's all just one grouping in power, overlording over everybody else, trying to keep everybody else out of power, and not really like, you know, sharing in the wealth, and not just, you know, wealth and money, but sort of the wealth of what it is to live a really full life where you actually feel free and, you know, have the liberty to do whatever you want. So I think it's kind of, you know, still evolving, but like I just started to realize at a pretty young age that like, oh, it's actually all the exact same thing. It's just in a little different way with different people, and people deal with different things, but like we all need to be in it together in order for it to change.
You sit here now, you're confident, you look so comfortable within your own skin. Have you always been like this? What were you like at school?
Like middle school and high school was a little bit weird. I didn't know that I was gay, so, and then as soon as I figured out that I was gay, I was like, ugh, well, this was obvious. Thanks nobody for telling me. That would have been like a nice little shout. But yeah, I think like all growing up, you know, middle school and high school is just awkward anyway.
It's
Every
tough.
single kid is so awkward. Like I see them now and I'm like, this is the cutest thing ever. They all have hormones and they're breaking out and they don't know who they are and they're shy, and even the confident ones are shy. And so like growing up,
You had a twin as well though, who
thank
helped
God.
you through it.
She was like really confident during that time. So I was like, thank God, like I'm just literally gonna follow you around. And I also had sport as well to like, you know, gain my confidence from that. And that was kind of the place where I sort of like rested my identity for those kind of years. But yeah, I think like all growing up, like I was just kind of exactly the way that I'm now, like went through this, it's kind of funny, went through that like weird lull, but Rach was like, we've always balanced each other perfectly. And then yeah, like getting into college, after that, I feel like just became kind of myself, you know, and being on a team like this team in particular, I think, I mean, any sports team can, you know, especially with girls, give them that confidence. But this team in particular, like whenever you're elite as a woman, like you're pretty much alone or with only a couple other people. Usually you're alone. And so to be able to grow up and mature on a team that has 23 other women who are like just as elite as you, just as, you know, confident. We give each other that space. We build each other up. We challenge each other. But to us, it's like, it's normal to be like big and bold and wild out like this. And so I guess when you take one of us out and we're doing that, it's like, oh, we've never seen women act like this, whatever. It's like, for us, it's just normal because like, this is just how we are all the time. And this is how we grew up empowering each other. And I think just naturally I'm a confident person and like very thankful for that.
Who was your number one sporting hero growing up?
I feel like it's two. It's for sure the 99 team. Like I think blew open all of our worlds at that time. You know, girls who played soccer, of like 100,000 people watching a final, like just they transcended sport in such a big way. They're absolutely our blueprint on and off the field for what it means to be on our team, but like how to shake things up and how to continue to grow the sport. And Michael Jordan was always like my jam. Big Bulls fan. He just had like such a swag about him. I mean, just like the way that he played and kind of the swagger and the confidence and the style and the creativity, everything was just top.
Tell me about one breakthrough moment or crossroads moment in your career that's really impacted you.
I think probably the most impactful was tearing my ACL 2015. I made it back for the Olympics, but it was terrible and really probably shouldn't have been on that roster. That was, yeah, I don't think I deserved deserve that very much. You know, obviously the team didn't do very well, so it was very disappointing. And just like wasn't myself at all, and just was kind of a shell of the player. So kind of what I had to do to get back to, you know, kind of my old self. And I think in the process of committing myself to coming back, I just like blew past where I ever was before. So I feel like that was a really pivotal moment, meeting Sue, my girlfriend at that time, and she's like Benjamin Button, so I don't know what she's doing, but I'm like, whatever it is, I'm going to do that. So like, you know, sort of changing up my training habits and eating habits and kind of my level of professionalism, you know, without all of that, like, I'm definitely not in this position. Maybe I would still be on the team, but certainly not in this position.
What's the one thing you're still desperate to achieve in your life?
I guess in a footballing sense, no one's ever gone World Cup Olympics back to back, so it's very difficult for a reason. You know, it's like once you win a World Cup, there's a million things you have to do. You're celebrating, like you don't have like that moment right after the World Cup where you're like, I'm committing myself to winning the Olympics and like nothing else matters. You're like, woo, like we're doing all these other things. So that would be incredible. I think we have a good opportunity and kind of the right mix of things. Obviously we have a new coach, so that like puts a little extra anxiety, but in a good way, you know, that kind of like, obviously he hasn't won anything at the international level. This is his first time, so he's super motivated, and I think like all of us kind of feeling like, you know, some people maybe who didn't play as much have a fresh opportunity. If you played a lot, you're like, well, I better keep on the top of my game and make sure I'm there. So in a footballing sense, I feel like that's something that's like super motivating for all of us. In life, oh God, I mean, everything. Like, you know, equal pay would be a really nice one. That might be a nice little cherry on top of this year if we could ever get to a deal or whenever that happens. I mean, I think just in general, like continuing to push the game forward, continuing to grow the game and challenge, and we've done everything to prove everything. I don't think any, you know, female professional footballer has anything left to prove. It's just like everyone else figuring it out.
Young girls today, even young women, it's hard for them. There's pressure on them from social media, there's pressure on them from everywhere. What is your message to young girls growing up in today's society about finding their identity and finding their voice?
Don't get in your comments ever. This is just like bad news. You can go, I just learned very early on, after a game, you want to, you know, have a big pat on the back, go in your comments. You want to have like someone crush you, go in your comments. You want to have people feel nothing about you, go in your comments. Like, it's a made up world. It's like, it's not real feedback. So like, lean on the people that are actually real, tangible in front of you, your friends, all of that. So social media is like one thing. It's, you know, good in a lot of ways, but it's just like horrible for kids really, because like they're already dealing with so much. And I think to just like never let anyone else define you, define your dreams, define like what you want to be. I think that like, especially now there's so many more opportunities and so many more lanes for people to be in, that like there's an opportunity for, you know, and there's space for you to be exactly who you are and whatever you want to be. So don't let anyone ever tell you what that is.